Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win, and we're back for another edition of Diablo 3. Today on the channel, we're taking a look at the alternative version of Tempest Rush Monk. This is probably the more optimal version to go when it comes to Tempest Rush for the Monk class, that being the Patterns of Justice set. Now, this is a build. There are various different ways you can run it. You could put Captain Crimson on it, but for today's build, we're going kind of a full, pure one. Okay, so let's get into it, shall we? The 2-piece bonus Sweeping Wind gains the effect of every ruin, and movement speed is increased 5% for each stack of Sweeping Wind. 4-piece bonus Attack with Tempest Rush reduces your damage taken by 50% and increases Spirit Regeneration by 50. So we're going to get back a lot of Spirit, unlike the Sanwuku set. 6-piece bonus Hitting with Tempest Rush while Sweeping Wind is active increases the size of Sweeping Wind and also increases all damage dealt by 15,000%. Now, that's a whopping amount of damage. So, unlike the Sanwuku set, which it actually focuses more so on the Tempest part of it, we will actually be focusing on Sweeping Wind. To help with this, we're going to be using Koshiro's Soul. Sweeping Wind gains 2 stacks every second. It does not deal damage to any enemy, so we're getting stacks when we're standing still, not doing any damage. On top of that, we're going to be using Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac and Convention of Elements, because those are pretty decent rings. The necklace, disregard that. That's a placeholder. If somebody answers that in the comments, I will shame you for the fact you weren't paying attention. Now, for the weapons, you want Wan Kum Lao. Hitting with Tempest Rush does increased amount of damage. You also want Vengeful Wind. That way it increases the maximum stacks of Sweeping Wind, so it all works in conjunction. So keep that in mind. Alright, so this is the full breakdown. Let's go into the primary skill. Crippling Wave, Rising Tide. You won't have to use this too much in this build. Tempest Rush, Flurry, that's the best way to go. Epiphany, Desert Shroud, that way we can reduce the amount of damage taken and also get back some resource generation that way. Sweeping Wind, as well as you saw there. And we have Blinding Flash and Mantra of Salvation. You're not going to really be using Blinding Flash until you get very high up into the Greater Rifts. Mantra of Salvation, even so much. Passives, as you see here, Relentless Assault, seize the initiative. In your Kanai's Cube, I recommend Balance, Mantle of Channeling, and obviously you will need the Ring of Royal Grandeur. So that's definitely something you want to go with here. You can also swap out for a Convention of Elements. In Kanai's Cube, you can run Captain Crimson. Like I said, I'm not using it for the purpose of this particular build because I will be showing that off in a future installment. So, if you mention certain things that I've just gone over in the comments, I will shame you because you were not paying attention. Alright, for the purpose of this demonstration, we are going to do a Greater Riff 60, 65, 70, and if I'm feeling lucky, maybe a 75 and an 80. If you ask to do higher Greater Riffs, I will shame you in the comments as well because you're not paying attention that this is a beginner's guide for those who are new to Diablo 3. If you're a hardcore Diablo 3 player, you don't need to watch this video because you already know what you're doing. Alright guys, so when you get into the Greater Rift, the first thing you want to do is activate your Sweeping Wind. Your Sweeping Wind will gain its stacks, and then you will literally just go Tempest Rush. As you see here, every time you can't channel your Tempest Rush, your Sweeping Wind will have a very large circular cone of area around you, which will do a tremendous amount of damage. So much damage that even without using Captain Crimson on this particular build, and just going this pure route for now, you will just literally rip through enemies in shreds. If you are doing this right and you have this decently optimized, a Greater Rift 60 should not take you anywhere longer than 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 3 minutes max. Obviously, this is very dependent on how high, how the dungeon layout is, because there are some dungeon layouts that have more twists and turns on them. There are certain dungeon layouts that you have potential to get lost, and if you do, don't worry about it, because you know what, I, for one, am not going to say that you're doing it wrong. Play Diablo how you feel, if however you get the most enjoyment out of it, that's the most important thing. Okay, so literally, all you're going to be doing here is going Sweeping Wind, Tempest Rush. Every once in a while, channel your Epiphany if you see that there are a lot of enemies on screen that are laying down area of effect damage hazards such as poison pools, obviously ice. There's also obviously mobs that explode. That's really what the Epiphany's here for, and some weird chance that you happen to burn through all your spirit regeneration, which is odd because that shouldn't happen to you until you get to a very high Greater Rift. But literally, it's just a matter of maintaining your Sweeping Wind stacks, and then literally just running around with Tempest Rush like a madman or a madwoman. Technically, I'm playing with a female character in this particular demonstration, and that's literally all there is to it. Now, in terms of optimization, what should you be going for? These are my personal recommendations. You don't have to necessarily follow them. This is just what works for me, and I think will work for newer, less experienced players. Now, in the Helm, I would recommend crit hit chance 6.0%. Anytime you can do critical hits and do more critical hit damage means you will do more damage in general, so why would you pass up on that? In your gloves, I would recommend getting crit hit chance 6.0%, crit hit damage 50%, and at least an attack speed 6. If you get attack speed 8, it is even better, more optimal. As you saw here, we literally, all we had to do was run into the Riff Guardian while channeling Tempest Rush, and we will one-shot it. That was super fast. I'd be surprised if we didn't do anything quicker than 2 minutes, 30 seconds, maybe. 3 minutes. 3 minutes change. We'll see in a minute. I'm bringing up. For your legendary gems, you want Goak of Swiftness, Bane of the Stricken, and Bane of the Trap. You can also use Taeguk in place of one of those. And for Goak of Swiftness, I like Goak of Swiftness because it brings my cooldown up pretty fast, and I can then work in Captain Crimson when I feel so, like doing so. Okay, so that was 2 minutes and 48 seconds, Greater Riff 60, which is Torment 13 equivalent. Right. This is going to be a Torment is 65. Like I said before, we're doing 60, 65, 70, and I think I'll do a 75 just for the sake of argument. Maybe a 80. Depends. Just want to show you how this is going to fare for those newer, lesser experienced players that are trying to figure out a good build for the monk. Same strategy as before. The minute you get in the Greater Riff, channel your Sweeping Wind. If you don't see a mob on the screen, let Kyoshiro's Soul do its work because it will automatically stack Sweeping Wind for you. And then you will just, when you see the mobs, start channeling your Tempest Rush. You will get this large cone area as you see here. And just start running around like a madman or woman. And just rip through things to shreds. That's how simplistic this armor is. That's how effective this armor is. There's not the prettiest style, but this is pretty much, for all intents and purposes, the S tier when it comes to monk. It's so easy that it's basically, you might as well say, another variation of spin to win. Now, in terms of further optimization with the armor, obviously, since we are using Tempest Rush and Sweeping Wind, wherever you can get 15% in Sweeping Wind active, definitely do so. If you could get also Tempest Rush 15% where possible, do so. Sweeping Wind, I would say, is a bit more important than Tempest Rush because obviously Sweeping Wind is where your main source of damage is going to be coming from thanks to the cone area of effect. Also, speaking of cones of areas of effect, in theory, since this is a big circular radius, you could also optimize on your armor to have area of effect damage. That way you can take advantage of this big circular area more. Obviously, this is very dependent on the rolls that you get in your armor. Now, if you decide that you are not going to go and use Kyoshiro's Soul and you want to go Captain Crimson Belt and then maybe Captain Crimson's Pants, what you will want to do there is you would want to then invest in cooldown reduction because the more cooldown you have, the more damage you do. The reason I didn't do it for this particular set build was I wanted to do something different, and I do like Kyoshiro's Show, and based on Kanai's Cube, I had very limited options, and if I ran Captain Crimson, so that is why we are not running it. There are multiple ways to run the build, though, so keep that in mind. Alright, so this shouldn't be any longer than maybe a 2-minute clear time as well. I think this was actually even faster than the Greater Rift 60. As you go higher up in the Greater Rifts, obviously more mobs will come at you, which means you have a higher potential of just going through things much quicker, much faster. Again, the legendary gems that you're going to want to use here is Bane of the Stricken, Bane of the Trap. You can also use Taeguk or Goak of Swiftness. My recommendation, since you're already using Mantle of Channeling, I would recommend the Goak of Swiftness. That way you can get Epiphany back up a lot quicker, which will help you in higher Greater Rift pushing, as well as you also get your Sweeping Winds quicker as well. Just a suggestion, you put that gem which you feel will work best for you. Okay, so this is a Greater Riff 70, same strategy again. Channel a Sweeping Wind, then start going Tempest Rush. As you see, even at these Greater Rift, you will do a lot of damage where you still won't have to use your Blinding Flash against Elite Packs. Basically, what you want to do as you get higher up in the Greater Rifts is you want to speed through things, looking for the Elite Pack so that you can get your orbs and you just keep running. When you don't have an Elite Pack that drops an orb, keep it moving. If you see an orb, go back and pick it up if you can. If you think you could just speed through a little bit better, then too. If you have a mob that has a shield, hit a Blinding Flash on it because you will do a lot of damage thanks to Bane of the Trap, and you can take it out that way. This is very simplistic, guys. Like, this is one of the more foolproof armors for the Monk. And if you've been struggling playing with the Monk for the Raiment of 1,000 Storms, which is the Hadred's Gift, this is probably the armor that I would recommend that you swap your Raiment of 1,000 Storms for, because this will take you very high up into your seasonal journey with general ease. Now, if you're playing this as your seasonal journey character, you're not going to have as much access to as much Paragon as I have. So how would you start optimizing this build? Well, for starters, if you decide you're going the Captain Crimson route with it, you will need to do a lot of bounties. That way you can get the Goblin and also potentially Ethereal bounty to drop the plans for Captain Crimson, because you don't get that automatically. Also, you will get a lot of blood shards, which you will need to get some of the weapons that you're missing. And also, you will have a lot of the crafting materials needed for if you decide to go Captain Crimson. If not, my recommendation, if you're just going to go my build, get Kyosher's Soul as soon as possible. Get your balance as quick as possible. Obviously, you can go into the merchant and buy a whole bunch of Daibos and then start upgrading them from their rare status to ancient rare or ancient legendary, and chances are you will get the bow that you want, because there aren't that many Daibos that drop that are ancient legendary for the Monk to begin with, so it shouldn't take you too long, and on top of that, you'll get probably subsequent things that you need. So I would recommend doing a lot of bounties, getting a lot of Death Breaths, blood shards, getting the plans early, and also getting the crafting materials, so that way if you decide that you need Captain Crimson, which I honestly don't think you're going to need until maybe you get to Greater Rift 130 potentially, you go that route. Now, further optimization, obviously try to get Ancient Legendary or Primal Ancient Legendary pieces wherever you can on this build, and then you would want to level up your gems to, realistically speaking, probably in the beginning you want to level them up to level 80, because you're probably going to have a hard time pushing Greater Rift 90 and above without any sort of optimization, any sort of augmentation on your armor. Once you start seeing that you are no longer declaring things like Greater Rift 90s, maybe, or 100s with general ease, or you're struggling, that's when I would recommend starting to augment more of your armor pieces at level 100 gems. If you can achieve them at level 100, whatever the highest you can get it without struggling. Keep in mind that a common misconception, something that people don't generally remind people of in Diablo 3, is that any armor that you augment it with a legendary gem, you can overwrite that later. This was 2 minutes and 49-second clear time at Greater Rift 70. So that just shows you how powerful this armor is, even without Captain Crimson. All right. This is a Greater Rift 75. I will also do it 80 because we're speeding through Greater Rifts pretty much like a hot knife through butter, so why not? Same strategy as before. Channel your first Sweeping Wind, then go Tempest Rush, and continue channeling that, and you will pretty much start sweeping through enemies. Same strategy as before. Hold it in. Obviously, if you don't see enemies really on the screen, there's no purpose for you to burn through your spirit, so don't really do that, especially as you get higher up in the Greater Rift, where spirit management and regeneration is going to be a little bit more important, as mobs are going to be taking more damage and they will be dishing out more damage, and also subsequently you have pirate potential of burning through your spirit. Let's keep that in mind. Alright. As you see here, some of the mobs now are starting to get a bit more tanky, so this is where Blinding Flash can even come in handy. Go Blinding Flash into them, and that will take them out thanks to Bane of the Trap in conjunction with all the rest of the cumulative damage. That's why we run Bane of the Trap in this particular build, in case you were wondering. Now, for the necklace, Obviously, like I said before, Sunwoku Shrines is a placeholder. Again, if you mention that in the comments, I am going to shame you for not paying attention the multiple times I said. Ideally, what you would like to run, particularly for a necklace, if you're not going Captain Crimson, I would say probably your best bet would be a Flavor of Time. That way you can extend the duration of your pylons, and if you run into the Lightning Pylon, you can just clear through things even faster. That would be my recommendation for this build. Subsequently, if you wanted to forsake the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, you could in theory run Traveler's Pledge and the Compass Rose. That way to get a little bit more damage out of things and also take less damage. Again, it's a matter of your own personal preference. There are many, many, many different ways to run this build. That's why it's a build and not the end-all to be-all. You didn't see me say endgame Patterns of Justice build, did you? This is just a recommendation for those of you who are less experienced in Diablo 3 and perhaps are just trying to get through your seasonal journey. Alright, so again, this armor is really a matter of maintaining your Sweeping Wind and just Tempest Rushing and just keeping an eye on your Spirit regeneration. Obviously, as you continue to channel Tempest Rush, you will get back Spirit as long as you are hitting into targets. And if you feel like you're getting low in Spirit, just channel an Epiphany, because you will take less damage, and on top of that, you actually get back Spirit that way as well. So it's just kind of a nice, handy skill to have. Mantra of Salvation, honestly, you're not going to really use it too much, as opposed to like if you run into a very nuisance type of Rift Guardian, where maybe you're going to need to get a dodge out. Usually you're not if you're following the build properly. So keep that in mind. Again, we're going to ignore those particular targets that explode with the tentacles because they are not going to drop orbs for us, so why run through things? You just want to go for the elite packs. With this armor, it's very important that you go elite pack farming, because if you elite pack farm, you'll get the globes very fast and you'll get super fast clear times. Now, when you're looking at leaderboard placement for the monk, chances are Patterns of Justice is going to have extremely high leaderboard placement. This is pretty much the definitive monk build to go with for the time being. Obviously, things do change depending on seasonal content, and obviously sometimes they nerf things, sometimes they buff things, sometimes they nerf particular weapons or offhands or belts and certain things and so forth. So there is always potential that things will be changed in a higher up. Alright, we're at the Rift Guardian, same thing before. Tempest Rush, we're going to Blinding Flash him. That will status him, and then Bane of the Trap will go off, and that's pretty much how you deal with things that don't go down as fast. This was a Greater Rift 75 Guardian. Let's identify one loot thing, and then we're going to drop that because we already have the Kanai cube anyway. It's no purpose for us. Alright. Again, I'm just leveling up random gems. They might be for different builds that you haven't seen or have seen in the past and just optimizing it further. Might be just for augmentation. Obviously, I'll have to tune entire episodes to figure out which one I am doing. Alright, so that was a Greater of 75. Well, let's see the clear time on that. That's probably going to be about 4 minutes. As you start seeing the clear time go up, that means you have to go back and optimize, augment your armor further. This is not fully optimized, so keep that in mind. 3 minutes and 56 seconds regardless, though, is very impressive. Okay, so I'm going to do one more Greater Rift because there's always that one person that comes in and says, well, you didn't do something beyond that. Here's the beyond. This armor, when fully optimized means that you have all Ancient Legendary or Primal Ancient Legendary pieces. You have 15% in Sweeping Wind and Tempest Rush where you need it. You also have, if you're running Captain Crimson, cooldown reduction where needed. If you're not going that build and you're going area of effect damage, fully maxed out. Also, you're taking advantage of crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and basically attack speed. All those things aligned, as well as augmenting each piece of armor with a legendary gem that would be equivalent of at least 100. Could be a little bit lower, but usually 100 or higher. You will, in theory, with this armor, be able to push a Greater Rift 130 to 135 by yourself. If you're extremely skilled, you might even be able to do a 140. In a group of 4, chances are with this armor, fully optimized, which I just covered over what fully optimized is. For those of you who did not hear that, definitely go back, rewind, and listen carefully. You should be able to clear a Greater Rift 150 when properly optimized. Again, mostly people are going to hunt for Greater Rift 150. It's because they're going for leaderboard placement, high leaderboard placement. If you are a casual to Diablo 3 and just want to have fun with things, don't worry, don't stress it if you're not able to get fully optimized. Again, the common misconception is that Diablo 3 is just for hardcore people. No, it's not. My guides are catered towards maybe those who are just getting into it, maybe those who got it on sale on the Nintendo Switch, which is the platform that I play on. Keep in mind, as I've mentioned before, all information that you see here, despite the fact that it's being played on the Nintendo Switch platform, can be applied to all platforms because the information applies all the same on all platforms. There's no difference outside of that one person's using a controller and the other person's using a mouse and keyboard. Mouse and keyboard, obviously, particularly mouse, will give you a bit more area precision in doing quicker, tighter turns, as well as being able to click maybe a little bit faster and quicker. Obviously, there's also frames per second and other technical aspects to that. But as far as the information is concerned, whether you're using this on PC or a gaming console, it all works the same. It's a matter of how much you paid attention to the content that I presented to you, and basically how much you applied that information, actually worked and grind, and then did further optimization besides this guide that I gave you, because obviously all armors are a work in progress and there is never a finished product, so definitely keep that in mind. So now, for those of you who are longtime viewers, you have been asking me, I have covered this in the last couple of videos, what will happen with the channel when Diablo 2 Resurrected comes around? Well, I do intend to play Diablo 2 Resurrected. I do plan to do guides and whatnot and builds for that when it comes out. I will cover the alpha a little bit when it is available on console. I believe, from what I've heard, we're going to be seeing that alpha dropping sometime in the summer, which leads me to believe that we are going to get a November release date for Diablo 2 Resurrected. Do not consider this etched in stone. Do not go and then quote me on YouTube as this guy said it's coming out then. I'm taking an educated guess based on how the alpha has been rolling out, as well as just the fact that E3 is coming out. And if they follow the format that they did with Diablo 3, particularly on console versions as well as Nintendo Switch, it makes feasible sense to put it out in November, which is holiday season, to maximize the potential of sales. And I believe they're also kind of waiting to see the status for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Now, as you saw here, as I was giving you kind of the details as to what's going to go on with the channel, we took care of the Riff Guardian. When you get a super high Riff Guardian at Great Riff 80 and obviously much higher up, it is a matter of timing that blinding flash so that you can apply Bane Trap, accumulated damage, as well as Tempest Rush, as well as Bane. As well as Sweeping Wind. All those things in conjunction do accumulative damage, which is why you can rip through a Riff Guardian super fast. I am not going to do a Greater Riff 90 or 100 because there's no purpose. I showed you an 80. From 90 to 100, the only difference with this build is that you're probably going to have a clear time go up a little bit higher, only due to the fact that my particular Greater Rift was pushed a bit. Well, not even so much the Greater Rift, but, you know, the fact that my armor is not fully optimized, so it will take me a little longer. As I did mention, not all this armor is maxed out because I have life. As most of you know, I play also other games. So I'm not going to sit in front of my TV screen playing Diablo 3 all day when I have other games that I do cover and other things to do as well. This is why this is a guide, and you take the information I buy, and then you do the rest of the work on your own, like usual thinking, responsible players would. This is just information I present you as to whether this is a good build to work with or not. And that's the purpose of this video. So we got that out of the way. Good. Alright, so we are leveling up these gems. Simplicity Strength does have a purpose. That's for Rayman of the Thousand Storms. I did cover it at the end of Season 22, so I'm not going to be covering that in Season 23 until probably closer towards the end, because that's really not a build you want to focus on with the monk in general. Anyway, okay, so let's see. Okay. 3 minutes and 49 seconds, Greater Riff 80. There's not going to be much of a difference from 90 to 100. Probably will go up to 4 minutes, and this is in a non-optimized armor, so keep that in mind. Alright, guys, let's evaluate the loot that we have here. Hopefully I'll get something good. Little Rogue, nope, I can't use that. That's for Barbarians. War Staff of General Kwang, nope, you can't use that either. And that's all the loot we got, which is kind of unfortunate. Okay, let's put a Paragon level here. I'm going to salvage this for parts that we don't necessarily need. Let's fix that. All right. No, we don't need any of this. I just go over this. We are going to use the staff offline so I can get to the cow level. If you're not familiar with that, the staff that I just showed you. Let me check this obsidian ring of the zodiac to see if it's better than what I have. No. Nope, it is not. If it has slot, though, and we could then get some rolls out of that, it would be worth it. All right, let's get rid of this. We'll keep the puzzle ring because I can use that for farming. I'm going to keep that item to check it later. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for the Patterns of Justice video. As always, a like and subscribe are greatly appreciated on the channel as it helps the channel grow. And I will see you Thursday for the next Diablo 3 video.